The award for mental health recognizes a person who has not only overcome the challenges of living with mental illness, but also someone who has become an advocate for mental health and wellness and improved the dialogue about mental illness with empathy and compassion.
I had never been hugged as a child. I was an object. I was not a little person that you needed to raise and keep safe and take care of. I can't even remember the first time I was sexually abused as a child, but then I was exploited by human traffickers, and that started by the time I was a toddler. There are a lot of people my age and older who were exploited by human traffickers in Canada. I remember as a 6-year-old planning to escape. I walked on gravel with my bare feet, so if I had to run without shoes, I could make it. By the time I actually managed to get away, of course, all my great planning wasn't there. I simply donned 2 sets of clothes and walked out of school one day. I escaped and was lucky because I was able to do this incredible thing. My first child I had at 17, I could feel that I was behaving and reacting to her in the same way that my parent did. And it really shook me to my core. And at that point, I started reading up on therapy and mental health and trauma and parenting and learning all the tools, and it's just so that I would not be my parents to my children. I worked with lots of survivors, and the most common thing they say is, I just want to get through this so I can be normal. But the truth is, when trauma is a part of your childhood, it impacts so much of that. I dissociate. That's my main coping skill, and for little kids, it's the only one they have. Lots of kids who go through this end up, like me, with illnesses that are never going to go away. So I had been trying to process my own trauma memories, and I ended up tripping into something really bad. And the floodgates of post-traumatic stress opened, and I was spending 24/7 being bombarded by post-traumatic memory. I was not okay. So I eventually reached out to her, and she agreed to see me for therapy, and I thought, well, I will just go until I'm back together. When a client goes to see a therapist, they have absolutely no idea what the ethical boundaries are. By the time I figured out that my therapy had gone terribly awry, I had done a lot of work, and that work was real. But what happened in the meantime is that she had started to transgress boundaries, all of those ethical boundaries. And by the time I realized how bad it was, there wasn't a boundary left. It became sexual, and right away she said, okay, we're in a committed relationship, that's it. Despite all the human trafficking and all the horrible things I went through, she became my worst predator. I couldn't tell anybody what was going on because I would be blamed. So I got angry, is what happened. And a lot of times that is the thing that spurs me on, is being angry. I'm focusing my time as I volunteer for an organization called TELL. And we work globally with survivors who have experienced abuse at the hands of their therapists. My radio show came out of trying to get information out to people and knowing that the one thing that needed to happen was mental health consumers needed to have access to information. It's really hard to make that happen.
I think she's an example of courage in this world. I'm looking forward to watching her evolve from this and see what happens next.
Just being in the presence of somebody healing and moving beyond and surviving what they went through is a miracle, and it's a blessing, and I get so much out of it.
This year's Courage to Come Back Award recipient for mental health is Bernadine Fox.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. I am humbled and honored to receive the Courage to Come Back Award from Coast Mental Health. Freud claimed that sexual abuse survivors were unable to discern between truth and fantasy and appointed therapists to do so on their behalf. Now, he's long dead and buried, but that idea has persisted. So when I was sexually assaulted by my therapist, it was an uphill battle trying to hold her accountable because she had been given the power to define my reality. I reached out to police, victim services, and her association, but none of those institutions did the right thing to begin with. Trauma survivors need voice. To paraphrase the author, Bell Hooks, for those who have been silenced, speaking and coming to voice is a necessary act of resistance and self-transformation. I have so many people to thank, but first and foremost to my children and grandchildren, my chosen family and friends. You all inspire me to do better every day. To Daniel, who nominated me, thank you for believing in me. And to the Crowchild family in Sitana, whether you know it or not, you gave me the means to escape the horrors of my childhood. Siescas. To Coast Mental Health, thank you for the extraordinary work you do every day, but also for creating an award that recognizes that survivors deserve their own voice, and that we are more than the bad things that bad people did to us.